So, ladies and gentlemen, let's, without any hesitation, make a start. I'm the Vice Chairman of OPAF, the Older Persons Advisory Forum. We have something like 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 people on board, including Michael. It's my pleasure and honour to introduce us all to Michael Murphy. He is the Deputy Director of Adult Services for the Royal Borough. He works for OPAF, and he's been for at least about 6 months now working with us on OPAF to look at what we can do to improve the basic life of adults and older people in the Borough of Maidenhead. And Michael has been a big help, along with a notable absentee this time, Greg Jones, who is the Director for Old People in the council, the Councillor for Old People. I need to be more exact. Champion for older people. He can't make it, but he will see this presentation, which is hopefully being recorded, and we will leave it on our website. So Michael has agreed to be recorded. Michael, is that your presentation up on the screen now?
It is.
So I think the best thing to do is move straight over to yourself, get on with the presentation. We're asking that no questions really during the presentation, but there's time afterwards to have a chat with Michael about any issues that may be outstanding. I would ask people to remember that we're in a state of flux when it comes to adult social care, in terms that the government are beginning to change the rules. They're looking at the legislation. So that's not what Michael is here for. It's how we deal with things specifically in the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. So welcome on board, Michael. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant.
I can't see you though.
You can see him if you look on gallery view.
Yes, he's T944.
Okay. Good morning, all. And thank you for the opportunity to outline visions and principles in terms of adult social care and some of the developments that we're intending to make over the next few years. Okay. So if we look at the principal values that we want to have, we want all people to live in the place we call home, with the people and things that we love, in communities where we look out for one another, doing things that matter to us. That's the basic sort of core principle we want to be judged by. Now, to do that, we want to assist people to live independent and fulfill lives. And there are 4 principles here. Prevention. That's embedding prevention to avoid crisis and loss of independence. So what happens too often for people is that a crisis means that they lose their independence significantly. What we want to try and do is build their resources and capacity and our work with them prior to them having a fall or whatever, to ensure that the strengths they had before that incident are protected as much as possible. We also want to invest in communities and their assets, and work on connecting people strongly to communities. One of the amazing things that's happened over the last 18 months or so is it was always there, but community effort, community capacity, community support has really come to the fore in terms of helping people through what's been a really difficult time. And that's a massive opportunity going forward in terms of helping people remain independent. We also want to increase choice for people as well, giving people choice in how we meet their needs, how we support people, how we maintain a strengths-based approach. And we also want to treat everybody with compassion, respect, and dignity. So they're the core principles. And we'll achieve this by promoting a strengths-based approach to working with people, delivering in partnership with our staff, our communities, our providers, other council and health services. I've worked in many places, and the Royal Borough is particularly blessed by that partnership. There are significant partnership initiatives, partnership services out there, and that's a real strength which we can build on. We'll focus on quality and continuous improvement and celebrating success. We'll work on achieve this by keeping people safe from abuse and neglect. One of the things that is a massive opportunity for us is technology, innovation, digital innovation, and technology-enabled care. They're sensors and other services that enable people to remain more independent at home, in terms of medication prompt systems, various other monitoring systems that allow people to maintain their independence and exercise their choice over what happens. If you look at Alexa type services and things like that, you can get phenomenal interventions that assist people in terms of taking control. And also in terms of the financial fiduciary responsibilities, Ed's already mentioned the wider financial agenda in terms of social care. But one of the things that remains consistent here is our need to use financial resources effectively and appropriately to secure efficiency and value for money. Okay, so that's the shared agenda across the Royal Borough, Optalis, and the community and our partners. The next question then is in terms of Optalis. So Optalis is committed to working with the Royal Borough around transforming social care. That means we'll treat each person as an individual and build a service around them, and we'll work with them with kindness, professionalism, and compassion. We intend to lead the way by continually enhancing our services through research and innovation. We're going to work on co-producing with our service users, our customers, our communities, our partners to create a joined-up strengths-based approach. And we have the first 3 projects already underway, which I'll detail in a moment. There's the front door redesign, the growth of reablement, and our enhanced community lives offer. All those 3 are the first projects which also further describe how we're going to make this journey work. Okay, so the first, I'll stop there for a second. Is that okay? Are people picking, is that working for people?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Okay, good. So the first project that we're working on at the moment is around our front door access to services. Now, we do this because we want to assist people in maximizing their control over their resources. We want to help them through recognizing and supporting and protecting their self-identified strengths. We want to get the right support at the right time to people, and which safeguards the person and their strengths. And we want to work with our partner agencies to ensure these principles are shared and acted on. That's an iteration of what was said earlier, but it's particularly relevant to this particular project. So the front door is the place that First Contact and Duty Team Front Door is the place where people have their first contact with adult social care. And our objective there is to help people in crisis access the services they need. So the front door is the team where, as I said, people contact us for all their initial inquiries, including safeguarding concerns. These inquiries taken from a wide range of sources: local residents, family members, neighbours, professional agencies, such as the police, ambulance service, and GPs. So it literally is the first point of contact with adult social care. And we want the objective of this review of that service is to have our first contact with people based on strengths-based approaches and maximizing their resources. And to do this, we want to focus on the needs of customers, right information, advice and guidance, the use of appropriate resources, and again, to come back to a point I made earlier, to support people within their communities. We also want to utilize existing and emerging technology to self-serve and access advice and information. We also want to support residents either in crisis or with non-complex needs quickly and appropriately to enable other resources to focus on those residents with more complex needs. Okay. So the first stage of this, the plan is that we are consulting people about their experience of services at this stage. We're also reviewing the customer journey, the way in which people make contact with us at this point. We're also mapping the current processes and looking at policy and guides for staff practice. And we're also identifying community resources and information. And we're looking at the current use of the technology. The next step will be once we've got the feedback, we'll look at what that means in the context of how well we're doing and how we need to improve things in the current model. Because we want to not only improve the current model, but also make changes in the longer term as well. Look at different models, develop an updated resource directory, and look at whether there are new ways that we can get people to access services. So for instance, the things that we're talking about are potentially having a web page or a website, which allows people to get all the information in one place about what is currently available within our services, but also out there in the community, and join those up as well. So that defines the front door piece of work. I'm going to break with what I said earlier and ask if there are any questions at this stage.
Yeah, Eddie Pikett here, Michael. How does one knock on the front door? So, that's magic to OPAF's ears, in the sense that we want a person to talk to, if you like, and then a place where you can go and get loads of information if you need it. Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked me that one. So there are a variety of ways in. Via phone, email are the main ways in at this stage. Okay, you can set up tabs on or tickets on the various websites as well. So there's a number of ways in to the system at this point in time. One of the things we want to do is to streamline those ways in, but also give people greater opportunity for navigating themselves. One of the things, as I said, that the last 18 months has really highlighted is the presence and the contribution of community groups such as OPAF, but others as well. And what we want to try and do is to have a potential site or a process which potentially offers those opportunities to people early on.
May I ask?
Yeah.
Michael?
Yes.
If you are, in order to access the open door, so if you're a family member and you rang the Royal Borough Enquiries, the customer helpline, they would give you this number or email address.
Yes.
So that, if you just didn't have a clue and you went in, You could just get it through the normal customer relations, or from the library, or you know, the usual places. Okay.
What we'd be doing, that's another. I'm not trying to be condescending here. That's a really, you're actually filling my lines for me here. Is helping. The thing around this is that these systems need to be sophisticated enough to give the right way in for people in a range of settings and a range of conditions.
Yeah.
Right. So if someone is in absolutely urgent need, the system will need to pick that up and actually direct the person to the right place immediately from that point of view. And we need to differentiate that from people who are making early exploratory contact. And also recognizing that we are trying to be absolutely strengths-based here, and recognizing that people's experience and entry into services differs. And what we want to try and do is to assist people who want to make early decisions around how their strengths to be supported in the future, so they're able to get access to informal services earlier on. So it's about plugging them into those links as well from that point of view.
Thank you.
So my assurance is that in this, the way this is working, as I said, we take a whole range of things through here, some professional contacts, some non-professional contacts, some contacts which are about early intervention, early information, some contacts which are about absolute in crisis situations. So any system needs to be able to differentiate those, and my assurance is it will. It already does, but what we want to try and do is make it as optimal as possible.
Thank you.
There's another chair. There's another couple of hands up.
Yeah, is it Marjorie? We can't hear you. We can see you talking.
Oh,
You need to come off mute.
well, I have several times, but it must have muted me again. Sorry. Okay.
It's Julia here. Could I ask a question?
Go for it, Julia.
I want to, well, thank you, Eddie. I'm just wondering how the borough is going to ensure that people who have difficulty accessing information will be helped in terms of making the information more accessible to people who might have other disabilities affecting their ability to perhaps read or understand, and even perhaps just use a telephone sometimes. What's the plan to help people with that particular difficulty?
Where that's identified, we will. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I'm getting quite an echo here at the moment.
Yeah, could everybody mute themselves while Michael's answering?
Yeah, thank you. So the answer is that we would when we contact people, and when people are referred to us, we make stringent efforts to try and identify if communication issues are an issue, or a concern, or a problem at that point, and we'll take steps to ensure that we're able to communicate with people appropriately. That's a duty, not an option for us in terms of that. So we need to do that, and I think we do it pretty diligently. What we would ensure in this particular system is that no assumptions are made about people's ability to communicate. So as I said, the issue here is that it's public services' responsibility to put in place mechanisms that enable people to be communicated with. And that's another part of this particular agenda. We already do it. I think we do it okay. What I wouldn't want to have happen is that a new shiny system does not achieve that from that point of view. As I said, the communication with us fulfills a lot of requirements for a lot of people in different ways, and we need to be sensitive to all of those. So, and what I would say today is, if people have got any concerns about communication from us, please let me know, because, as I said, we have a responsibility in that. It's as simple as that. And if we're not, if people have got concerns or issues on that, I need to know about them.
Can I ask a question?
Oh,
Can I? Yes, it's Sarah speaking. I I found the ADS absolutely superb. Now, they're a charity, as I'm sure you're aware. Are you going to ensure that you link the charity work, because it's not just Alzheimer's, I'm quite sure there are other people that you support as well, but are you going to ensure that you link those charities with what you are actually doing today?
Yes. Yes.
Thank
Just to give you the assurance again, right? We are engaging with and will continue to engage with a very wide network of organisations. So there's a lot of work being done by Jessel and others in the council around community involvement, community organisation involvement. There'll be we will engage organisations who've got a role to play in this, will be engaged in it. Because what we want to achieve here is several things. The first one is that people are able to get what they want within, I'll use the word want carefully here, but what in terms of what they need from us as quickly and as effectively as possible. That means access to organisations as well from that point of view. So it's in all our interest to pull together from this point of view in terms of this. So yes, those links will be made.
you.
Yeah, may I ask a question?
There's been, Patricia, of course, I'm just conscious there's been a couple of hands up.
Oh, sorry, yes.
No, you're
okay.
fine. No, goodness, I'm
Yes.
probably one of the last to go on what's the word, formality here, but there's been a couple of hands up for a while.
Right,
So
yes, I'll wait for them to
no,
speak.
this is chair, can you guide us? Can you guide
Yeah,
me through?
Patricia, go for it while you're
Okay.
there, and then I'll do a better job.
Well,
No, I wasn't.
I was just wondering, are we able to phone ourselves, or do we have to be referred? And if we can phone, will you at some point tell us where we can go to find the phone number to knock on the front door?
Yeah, of course. Right. So the answer is anyone can ask for information or assessment at any stage. The phone numbers are on the websites at this stage, but one of the things we're looking at in terms of this review is how easy is it to access us.
Yes, and of course not everyone has a laptop, but anyway.
No. Right. My assurance is that we're not obsessed with the laptop age or the IT age. We need to ensure there are multiple ways for people to access services from that point of view. That's an assurance. It's not about one way of doing stuff. We need, as I said earlier, we have a responsibility to communicate people in the way that they are able to communicate.
Yeah, Sarah, just one thought. The borough, if you look at Borough Together, there's 4 or 5 major initiatives to try and bring in the voluntary sector alongside RBWM professional staff.
Yeah.
And they're trying quite hard to do that.
Yeah.
And it's been around based on the Clure and Dedworth model, because they did a bit of good work there.
Yeah.
I think it's early days yet, but nonetheless, the borough are trying hard.
My personal experience would indicate the Big 10 model is the only way to do it.
Yeah, explain that one, Michael.
Everyone's in.
Yeah. Any more questions while we're on the question session?
Yes,
Rod's
please.
got his hand up, and then Fiona. Rod, and then Fiona, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Mine's probably a little bit of a, I'll start the video, big pardon. Mine's probably a little bit of an overview one. I know the borough and the local health services have been working very closely together during the recent crisis and all other times. And we talk about the analysis of feedback from customers. I know that in the local CCP ICS, there's a rapidly evolving analytics insights model, which is used quite extensively. Just as an overview, question is the feedback from customers and analytics that the borough will be receiving, is that linking in with the insights analytics models?
We'd hope so.
So that brings in the question of connecting NHS with social care, of course.
Absolutely, that's the whole sort of route on it.
Yeah, just an assurance that this is the inherent in this is linking the health and social care and others together in terms of this particular process.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I expected that would be the case, and it's been very good so far, but I thought it's worth just sort of covering it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fiona.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Michael. Just a couple of quick kind of queries from me, but also obviously we as AGK Berkshire work pan Berkshire. And whilst I appreciate this is a piece of work for Windsor and Maidenhead residents, this piece of work has already been carried out extensively by both Reading and Wokingham. So I was just wondering if there's any plans to share some learning and some information from that would be very helpful. And the second thing, and it kind of relates to a couple of the other earlier comments about involving charities and community groups, the actual co-producing of the front doors in those areas was co-produced with the voluntary sector as a whole, as a total, as a key part of the process. Is that the plan for Windsor and Maidenhead as well?
Yes, I think there's likely to be several stages to this. There's going to be a review of the current operations, some changes in that model to make that optimal. But alongside that is the wider strengths-based model, community opportunities. Those discussions are already going on, as Edward's already identified. What we'll be doing is increasing the pace of those conversations. And that community model has to be co-produced anyway from that point of view, because it relies on everyone pulling together for it to work.
Well,
sorry, just one other thing on it. The other components in terms of the NHS opportunities and the opportunities for joint working, they are being explored as well from that point of view. But this is almost a three-parter from that point of view. If I maybe so bold, the first bit is to understand people's experience of contacting social care through this and how we actually optimize that. The second part of that is in terms of the alternatives and giving people a range of options for how their strengths are maintained. There's a debate around that. There's also the debate around the further integration of these processes with the NHS. All of it is going to be done via partnership. And yes, Fiona, we will be part of looking at other models and looking at the future options here will be to reflect on what's been done elsewhere. And the other component of it is the technological bit. I don't want to get too carried away with the technology, but there are potential options out there for people who are able to do so, to navigate things for themselves rather than be reliant on a phone call or whatever to do so. That's where they have the capacity and the will to do that. But it does empower people quite a bit if you're actually able to give them the information to process things themselves. It's always worth doing. But again, the assurance is that'll be part of there'll always be the opportunity for or the protection for where people are unable to access support via that route, for them to be able to get it via different means, and for us to support them in their access.
Fiona, am I right in thinking you think Reading and Wokingham are doing better than RBW at the moment?
I wouldn't like to say that in front of RBWM residents.
I didn't know.
But certainly they're much further, just from a practical point of view, they're definitely much further ahead in the process. So Reading have already done a 6-month trial on some new options, and Wokingham completely outsourced their front door through the pandemic to a charitable organisation, and they're seeking on taking that further going forward. So I think there's some really good stuff that's worked and hasn't worked equally that could probably feed into this piece of work in a really positive way.
Yeah.
Of course, Michael is Wokingham as well.
I'm Royal Borough.
Okay, I was thinking about Optalis as well.
Oh, Optalis. Yes, I am. Sorry, no. The Optalis as an organisation covers both. I'm purely Royal Borough from that point of view. But yes, we will look everywhere from that point of view in terms of that particular part of it.
Okay. Any more questions until we get into the last part of Michael's talk? No more for the moment? Can't see anybody. Michael, would you like to finish off the last bit of your talk then?
Okay. So I'll shoot through these. So the next thing we're talking about is around reablement and the role of STS&R.
STS&R, what's that, Michael?
Short-term support and reablement. I'm glad you asked me that question. Okay, so reablement is, our reablement team helps people recover and regain independence. So people can have access to 6 weeks reablement or up to 2 weeks to assist in right-sizing their services. That's particularly important on hospital discharge, where people, in order to safely discharge people, they can require more support than is needed in the longer term. So we'll work with them intensively over 2 weeks to try and assist them regaining their independence. The support is excellent service. Support is provided by practitioners, physios and rehab assistants, and sets clearly identified goals and uses technology, equipment, exercise and skills building to assist people to live as independent lives as possible, and actually achieves really very high levels of helping people regain their independence. Elsewhere, and I'm sure I think the stats here mirror this, but we're talking about a significant proportion, 50–60% of people having their need for support, finding they're able to do more. So their need for formal support is reduced because they're more able to do things for themselves on discharge and working through these processes. So the team's been refocused in terms of meeting the changing expectations of people, using the skills and of the talents of the specialist team. And we've also got a practitioner based in the hospitals to pick up early on people who are being discharged who might benefit from reablement, with 2 objectives: reablement with people being independent after, and reablement with people with a support plan which more closely resembles what they're able to do. So they'll be more able to do things because they've had support from reablement. So classic examples of that are helping people to regain their cooking skills, their self-care skills, which stays in hospital tend to, for all understandable reasons, they tend to reduce people's ability to care for themselves. So part of this process is taking people through programs of food preparation and using equipment and techniques or whatever to assist people in terms of being able to wash themselves and things like this, do their own self-care tasks where possible, where appropriate. That also assists people in their dignity as well from that point of view. Okay, so here are some examples here. You know, people who are bedbound are assisted in terms of, in the first instance, being able to assist themselves in getting out of bed, getting dressed, undressed. As I said, if you've been in hospital for a while, it's very, NHS provides excellent care, but your confidence sometimes takes a knock and you're unable to do things. So this service works intensively on those issues for people. And part of our strengths-based work and supporting people in what they want is around strengthening these responses and making these available to more people. And what we do here from feedback is that this is exactly what people want from us, and they really benefit from being able to have assistance in restoring their ability to do things for themselves. Okay, I'll go on to the next one now, if I may as well. So part of what Optalis does in terms of how this moves forward is around community lives, which is around how Optalis supports our various customers in accessing community support of various forms. So there's a lot of work going on here. So I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment. So what we have is a range of support options for people. So there's supported employment, which is assisting people in terms of gaining access to employment through mentoring and support, and working with organisations to enable people to access employment. We've talked about support in the home already. So that's SDSNR and other components, but also widening that. We also have a range of specialist facilities, day centres and other facilities where people can go and have their support delivered. We have a really excellent programme called Out and About, which is primarily supporting people to access activities and support in their communities. Quite often people lose support, lose confidence there. And part of this is about providing buddies and other support just to enable people making that first step. And what tends to happen is once they've made that first step, they gain more confidence, and actually the people they have met tend to reach out to them and assist them more as well. So our role in it can be quite time limited from that point of view, but it does create a significant element of catalysis in terms of enabling people to do what they want to do, overcome their uncertainties or whatever, and pick up activities that they want to do. So community spaces, we're also big on links to the voluntary sector and using our outreach to work with colleagues around establishing activities within community venues. We also have the dementia advisors drop-in phone-in support, drop-in training awareness and raising and Zoom sessions for people with dementia and their carers. We also have a volunteer support bank. We're currently recruiting a bank of volunteers to support our customers. We're also looking at developing a range of social enterprises, which will offer links back to supported employment and other opportunities. So Optalis will begin to develop small business type setups, which will also then potentially create employment opportunities for the people we work with. And we also deploy, provide, assist people with technology as well, in the sense of we do an awful lot of our OTs about providing equipment to people in their own homes of increasing technological sophistication, and we work with various technology providers to assess people. We'll get assessments done on people with their agreement to see what technologies are available to assist them. So all of that joined up, we think will assist people in those three aspirations in the middle. I have the support to play an active part in my community. I have access to the right services in the right space, and I have access to meaningful activities. So that's quite a powerful recipe there of how Optalis is actually moving things forward from that point of view. Okay, so one of the other things we're doing here is around transforming day services into community lives. So we've changed job titles to reflect the new model. That's about helping people to be part of their community. So we're now focusing on, rather than necessarily building buildings based, but actually generating and assisting people to, where it's appropriate, to access opportunities in the community. Our dementia advisors have grabbed the initiative in terms of the challenges of COVID and the restrictions in terms of meeting people face to face, with an increased use of Zoom sessions and outreach support to people. And we are working with people, as I say, by creating new opportunities and new ways of accessing services and support to help people learn things to increase their confidence and become more independent. And we want to further develop our relationship with the employment services, grow and develop out and about services, and again, work with partner agencies to improve community support. So working with the Northern Farm leisure centres and local colleges and finding solutions to inclusion to enable people to play an active part in their communities. It's a massive theme for us in terms of how we're going to move forward, and iterates back to the discussion, the points I made about the front door. And I think I used the word big tent. It all relates to how we support our customers, their strengths, and their relationship to their communities. Okay, so thank you for listening.
Okay.
I'll take questions now, if that's all right.
Anybody got any questions? Doesn't look like it. I did go on your website, by the way, and I've got a comment to make. It took me 3 clicks to get to the customer service number.
Yeah.
So the open door needed a little bit of pushing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
01 628 68 3800. Well, I've got one question, I think, Michael. What do you think's your biggest problem? What's the thing that concerns you most in RBWM? I'll give you one from me if you want as well.
I don't have any particular. I don't think there are any particular concerns from that point of view. I think there are significant opportunities here in what we've outlined here. So I think the issue is about how we transform services and people's experience to become strengths-based. I think is the challenge. It's not a concern; it's a challenge from that point of view.
Yeah, one of the challenges OPAF have come across is this ever-aging borough, where we're going to need more and more resources. You know, the age profile of the borough is getting. I hesitate to use the word worse, but it's getting older.
Yeah.
How far ahead do you look in terms of the resources you need? And then the next one is probably asking you for a crystal ball. Is if the government's talking about changing the requirements for, you know, entering care, and it's probably a lower requirement, you know, it's not the 23,800 and that sort of stuff. What does your crystal ball tell us about that? So 2 questions in one.
Yeah. Okay.
The aging borough and government changes. I know you're not responsible for it, Michael.
Okay. So on the first question, I think the aging borough, I think it's important to recognise that actually age, and I'm of an age myself where this begins to matter, where age, people's capacity to continue healthy, well and fulfilled lives has transformed. So actually part of that process is around recognising that just aging in itself isn't a massive determinant of need at this stage. It will be, it potentially is as people get older, but at this stage it isn't from that point of, it's not necessarily from that point of view. And part of how we manage this relies on intervening early on with people to put in place processes, systems and support which maximize their strengths. And actually the evidence is if we do that, people will be able to remain more independent for longer in terms of how we go forward. That would be my answer to that particular part of the challenge here. And everything that's been said around partnership with the NHS, partnership with communities, partnership with voluntary organisations, it relies on all of those partners who all want to play a part. Let's be very clear about this. One of the things that we've picked up and today also illustrates it, is there's an immense desire to work together collectively for the betterment of everybody from that point of view. That's undeniable. So I think that actually offers us a major opportunity here from that point of view. The other component is that, yes, aging populations live, eventually people will become in need of higher level, more complex care services. And that talks to the second question, Edward, from that point of view, which is around how is this funded going forward? I'm afraid I'm not able to offer a comment on that at this stage in terms of how that funding is going to go through, because I think it will resolve itself to some extent one way or another. And I think my crystal ball is somewhat clouded on this one. So I'm not sure I'm able to answer that, give you any light on that question. Mainly because
the answer I expected, yeah.
No, mainly because I think that there are so many ways to do this. But each one of those ways has significant pressures on it that I think it's difficult at this stage for me to answer that one.
Understood.
And it's, I'm pleased the debate is starting, or it's being drawn to a conclusion from that point of view, and how this is moved forward, because that's the bit in this that needs to be resolved. We can do as much as we like at the front end, but actually in terms of people's early contact, maintaining people's independence, but the issue about how care is resourced at the later stages of people's care experience is a key issue. I wouldn't deny it.
Okay, in the interest of time, any other questions for Michael?
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Roger.
We're talking about the various stages of elderly care, or some aspects of it. Eddie's point was that about people in the borough, there being more older people. Now that you respond to that by saying frailty is really the key, not just age.
Yeah.
And that frailty, as we get older, it's our own problem until it becomes acute, I guess. So we need to keep the older people fitter. And the trick there is to engage with them in a better way. And I think you've said that. Do you think you need more resources from the borough to make that? You mentioned that, talking to the leisure centres, Northern Farm and such. But is there any way we should be looking at it in a different way? Have you come across any thoughts there?
I think there's almost a PhD thesis on all this, on how the various resources, concerns, strengths, or whatever that people have, how all that iterates to keep people well. And one of the first things I think we need to do before there's a request for additional resources in it, is just make sure we're optimizing the use of our current opportunities. And I think that's as I said, I was struck during through COVID, which was, it's been an absolutely really, really, really difficult. I'm not trying to make light of it. It's been a really, really challenging situation for everybody. But one of the things to reflect back on as a positive is the way in which people pull together and the way in which communities pull together and offered support. Now, one of the things that gives us, I think, is that will not have gone away as a basic fundamental human value. And so therefore, I think the opportunities here about plugging people who are isolated, lonely, are struggling into those patterns of support, I think is a major opportunity here. And that, I'm not saying, we all have a responsibility here, Roger, from that point of view. I'm not making frailty the individual's fault from that point of view. What we have to do is actually see what we can do to enable people to access that support early on, as far as possible through their own measures or volition, because in the sense that furthers empowers people. there is something around the minute you use a statutory service to direct something for you, you've lost a bit of your own agency. And I'd like that people are able to access those things as far as possible using their own agency. And our role as public servants is to make that as easy and as smooth as possible for those people. Right. However, sorry, Edward, to one key point though, right? Because it's been made all the way through this. That is not for everybody and is by no means for every form of contact we have. For people who people who are vulnerable, who require safeguarding, who require urgent access, that has to be extremely carefully laid out as well from that point of view, because that's several things at once we need to do.
I was excuse my throat. I was concerned with Sportsable and Smile. We're going to enter a post-COVID era, slightly worse off in those terms. And I know they're not kind of your responsibility as such, Michael, but we'll be watching to try and see what we can do to resurrect Smile and Sportsable. Yeah. Karen, you put your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, just a late question. Michael, I'm Karen Mustard from the Stroke Association, and I've just recently returned to working in Windsor and Maidenhead, which I'm really, really pleased about. But it's one thing that I've noticed since I've come back and this is following on from your talk about the importance of the voluntary sector and, you know, community support groups. And when I left, there was actually a group supporting carers, which appears to have now disappeared. So I guess my question is, why has that support disappeared? And do you feel that the online support is actually meeting the needs of carers in Windsor and Maidenhead?
We try hard to support carers through carers assessments and those processes. What I'd like to do is have a further conversation with you around that particular point, if that's okay, and maybe bring it back to another OPAF meeting from that point of view.
Yeah,
I don't. There's a trite answer I could give right now, but actually, I'd rather have further conversations on that basis and come back to you on that and make that part of perhaps the OPAF work program.
Yeah, kind of important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You need to come off, Ms. Cole, you need to come off mute if you're going to ask us a question.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Right. Thank you, Eddie. There's been a lot of talk about resources today, but of course the staff are the most important resource and probably the most costly. And I wonder whether you could let me know what's going on, what the plan is in terms of recruiting, training and retaining staff, because there still does seem to be quite a rapid turnover of staff. And we really do need to try and hold on to the staff, because it's continuity which is of most important to many of the residents who are having care or needing care. Could you just tell us a little bit more about any plans around that, please? Thank you.
Yeah. So in our services, the services I manage, we are developing and have developed a range of measures to support staff recruitment and retention, including career development, remuneration frameworks which recognise experience and give people opportunities for promotion, more flexible working, training, social work apprentices, occupational therapy apprentices, a whole range of measures to make Optalis a place where people want to come and work from that point of view. And we're seeing some success in that at this stage. So we are actively working to retain and recruit and retain staff and to create staff development opportunities as well.
I think one last question in the interest of time. Anybody got a last question for Michael? No, I think then it's up to me to give Michael a vote of thought. Thanks a lot. There's one action coming out of this is to have a special OPAF meeting on support to carers. And Karen, you of course will be invited, and I'm sure Fiona with Edge UK in mind would be interested in, well, and everybody else. So I think we'll take that action on board. I'd like to say thank you very much, Michael, for a very caring and high level, but nonetheless, I think, instructive view of what's going on in Windsor and Maidenhead. I think we've got a decent future if I read right between the lines in what you've said.
Thank you.
I would just say it still took me 3 clicks to get to the customer service.
Yeah, we'll be picking, as I said, Chair. The front door redesign. One of the first priorities is to understand.
And I really look forward to the Directory of Services as well, so that folk can drill deep.
Yeah, well, I would say, Chair, if anyone else has got any other questions that they ever want to ask me about where things are going, then please just don't hesitate.
Okay, at that point, I think we'll wind up. Thanks everybody for attending. I would like a few more people, but well done for attending, and thank you, Michael.
Thank you all. Take care.
We'll call the meeting over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.